Hello there. Thank you so much for joining us. This is News Channel Nebraska. My name's Eric McKay. Let's take a look at our top headlines today. 911 services appear to be back online all over the state after tens of thousands saw their service interrupted suddenly. Multiple social media posts by law enforcement agencies all over the state Tuesday said they were experiencing technical difficulties delivering 911 calls to various communication centers. The issues affected at least Boone, Buffalo, Colfax, Dodge, Dundee, Hall, Hamilton, Howard, Lancaster, Merrick, Platte, and Sarpy counties. And no word on what caused this latest outage, but it coincidentally happened on the same day the Public Service Commission announced punitive measures could be coming for Windstream after 3 separate outages in many of those same counties last year. An executive at a prominent Grand Island business says he's not guilty of drunk and reckless driving. An attorney for 54-year-old Jason Hornady entered a written not guilty plea this week, requesting a jury trial. A Hall County Sheriff's deputy report shows that a vehicle driven by the vice president of Hornady Manufacturing was clocked going 151 miles per hour about a mile south of Grand Island last month. Law enforcement say Hornady also failed a field sobriety test. His blood alcohol level tested nearly twice the legal limit. His trial has been scheduled for September. A nonprofit has filed a lawsuit to get records from federal authorities. The American Civil Liberties Union of Nebraska filing a lawsuit Tuesday to ask federal authorities for records of correspondence and database searches related to ordinances in the towns of Fremont and Scribner. The ordinances ban some immigrants from renting housing in their communities. Immigration legal fellow at ACLU, Dylan Severino, says they filed the request in December of 2021, but never got an answer. That's why they're now turning to the courts.
We have a transparent government, and we need to hold our government accountable to that, right? Democracy dies in darkness, so they say. And by shining a light on government, we can find out what's going on. And if there is something going on, then we can handle it. We can work with it. We can't do anything when we don't know anything. So it's about getting the information.
The ordinance itself dates back more than 14 years. Back in 2010, the ACLU and ACLU of Nebraska both sued Fremont, seeking to overturn the rental ban on the basis that it conflicts with the federal government's authority to regulate immigration and is in fact discriminatory. The 8th Circuit U.S. Court of Appeals ruled against that challenge. Fremont's mayor, in the meantime, has said while the ordinance is still on the books, it hasn't been enforced. The government now has between 20 to 30 days to respond to the ACLU's request. Some 20 states are under heat alerts today. Not terribly surprising given this time of year, but some of the impacts of the extreme temperatures are surprising. It's so hot in some places that glass is shattering and helicopters aren't flying right. Amy Kiley has a look at what's happening.
In the window, it was just like sizzling from the heat.
Some 20 states are under heat alerts today, and a few of the impacts might be surprising. Around Las Vegas, it's so hot, glass has been shattering.
That pane that's facing the sun can actually get up to close to 300 degrees. The glass starts to expand. It has nowhere to go.
The heat's also impeding aircraft. It reduces lift by making the air less dense. The National Park Service says that prevented a helicopter rescue in California's Death Valley recently. Airlines say they've had to change flight times to cooler hours of the day. In Oregon, officials say the heat is contributing to smog.
Try to avoid having an idling engine. If you need to refuel your car, do so at a time like a cooler time in the evening.
Temperatures in California are affecting how produce grows.
When we get these kind of extreme temperatures like this, we see a lot of our produce, whether it's fruits and nuts, as well as vegetables, they can actually slow down a little bit on the ripening side.
Experts say cows make less milk when it's hot, and to them this summer has been boiling.
I believe cows, they get hot at about 68 degrees. So This time of year is really hard on them.
I'm Amy Kiley reporting.
It was 5 years ago Tuesday that Kearney experienced the most extreme flood in the city's history. On the anniversary of the disaster, Michael Shively looked back at why the flood hit and how it affected the city.
As you could see, we're around 4 or 5 feet lower than the edge of the lake.
When Paul Eunice drives around his property, his mind flashes back to 2019.
100 acres of ground, all of it was underwater at one time in this area. And the lake, you don't know where is the lake and you don't know where is the ground because everything was covered with water.
The memories are especially present this week. Tuesday marks the 5-year anniversary of the July 9th, 2019 flash flood. Eunice owns several hotels and a hospitality district on the south edge of Kearney.
In less than 35 minutes, the water went from the lake side all the way to the Hampton. It went very, very quickly. The minute started moving, between 8:30 and 9:30, the water already was passing Talmadge Road, Talmadge Street, and all the way north of the Hampton.
Emergency Manager Darren Lewis was supposed to meet another county's emergency manager at the Eunice Center at 8 o'clock that morning. He canceled at the last minute to monitor the water levels.
By the time 9:30 rolled around, that other emergency manager's truck was sitting in 3 foot of water.
The flooding caught everyone off guard. Kearney received 4 to 7 inches of rain, a lot, but not enough to sink a third of the city. The problem was in the west. The National Weather Service says 8 to 11 inches of rain fell over a vast area from Lexington to Odessa. It collected on already saturated ground, fed small streams, and a wave of high water flowed to the east into Kearney.
We cut some drainage ditches to help mitigate that, to get the water to drain quicker. But it was like a concrete swimming pool down there. It just stayed and stayed and stayed.
2 conventions were in town and the Eunice hotels were nearly full. First responders used airboats and construction equipment to evacuate guests. The University of Nebraska Kearney opened its dorms to house Eunice employees and people who were stranded, like the Connolly McKee family from Illinois.
It's like everyone's just been very calm and like they had a plan in place already. And it's like not an act that happens very often, but it's like they're following this script. I mean, they've made it feel like they had it covered all the way.
Infrastructure and property took a hit. Lewis says the county suffered more than $70 million in damages. Beyond Kearney, rural areas and small towns were also underwater. Marcy Granados of Gibbon told us in 2019 that she was flooded out in March and again in July.
We had to rip out all the drywall and insulation again. The flooring has to be replaced. Everything that we've done this far, we got to do it over again.
Despite the chaos, there were no serious injuries. While the flood and its aftermath linger as a nightmare for Eunice, the safe outcomes for his guests remain a point of pride.
We told everybody, today we are in this position, tomorrow we're going to get better, the day after we'll get better, and we'll come out of this stronger and better equipped for the future. And God was with us, and He helped us tremendously to help us to be where we are today.
In Kearney, Michael Shively, News Channel, Nebraska.
Turning from past flooding to potential future flooding, the Federal Emergency Management Agency finalized a rule Wednesday that will help flooded communities build back in more resilient ways. They're trying to guard against future floods. The new standards take future flood risk into account rather than using outdated data. So FEMA says they're paying for the federal cost share for these projects. It's about 75% or more of a project's total cost. The new standard will impact all federally funded projects to rebuild publicly owned infrastructure. That includes municipal buildings, fire and police stations, and hotels. It will not, though, impact the rebuilding of private homes. On Capitol Hill, House Republicans have approved 2 bills rolling back Energy Department efficiency standards for home refrigerators and dishwashers. Republicans called the Biden administration rules expensive and impractical. Democrats defended them as a way for consumers to save money and reduce greenhouse gas pollution that contributes to climate change. A bill by Representative Marionette Miller Meeks of Iowa would curtail Energy Department rules on refrigerators. A separate measure by New York Representative Nick Langworthy would bar the administration from implementing or enforcing new efficiency rules if they're not, in the bill's words, cost-effective or technologically feasible. Both bills were passed yesterday. They go to the Democratic-controlled Senate, though, where they're unlikely to advance. And a new unique water attraction in northeast Nebraska getting a lot of attention. Andrew Pfeiffer has more.
A new attraction is making a splash in Norfolk. The town has installed its very own whitewater rafting in Lazy River.
When I first went down, I didn't feel like I was in the middle of our town, and I felt like I was like maybe on a little vacation somewhere.
It's something that's kind of addicting, I think, and they enjoy that experience.
Probably the coolest thing about this river is the fact that it's open every day from dusk till dawn. No registration is required. It's open 7 days a week. All you need to do is bring your own tube or life jacket. And if you don't have either of those, they can be provided or you can rent one out.
I came in Saturday morning and there were 15 people standing in my parking lot waiting to rent tubes. I haven't seen that before in the 8 years that landing's been there.
The initial drop-off point is located off of 1st Street and East Benjamin Avenue. The full length of the river runs 2 miles south through the middle of town. If one were to float from the starting point to the finish, it could take up to 2 to 3 hours.
We're seeing the numbers pick up each week. We're seeing the parking lot starting to fill up especially on the weekends and in the afternoons.
The river accommodates kayaks, paddle boards, and tubes. There are 7 drop sites and even a surfing wave for surfboards. A staff will be on hand to assist those who may need it.
Our rec staff have been having a good time learning how to do the surf feature and how to float on the river using kayaks, all the safety that's needed with it as well. So they are ready to help the community have a fun experience on our river.
The surf wave and the whitewater rafting make Norfolk a destination for water activities in northeast Nebraska.
We're the most landlocked state in the nation. There's at least 2 states between us and any coast, and we have the surf wave.
As Norfolk continues to grow, so do its tourist attractions.
Reporting in Norfolk, Andrew Pfeiffer. News Channel Nebraska.
And you can stay up to date with the very latest by following us online. Head to newschannelnebraska.com. Click on the news tab there. You can also follow us on X. Like us on Facebook and Instagram as well. Thanks for joining us. Have a great day. You're watching News Channel Nebraska.